box beef worth 2 billion Aussie dollars, but the luxury breed has had a bit of a bumpy ride of late. The market recovering after some big drops last year, which at one point saw F1 Wagyu prices on par with the Eastern Young Cattle Market indicator. Let's bring in Charlie Perry, who's one of the country's largest seed stock gene suppliers. Charlie, good to see you here. Thank you so much. How has it been the last year?
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's the Wagyu market is a bit of a funny one because, sort of picking up on what Tony was just talking about, there's such a long investment across the supply chain, and he talked about the consistency of the product that has to be delivered. So often what you'll find is that people work with cooperator herds. So although the market did certainly dip, the Wagyu market isn't nearly as transparent as the rest of the beef industry. You know, I think 90% of the Wagyu cattle bought and sold transact privately. So what that means is that when you're in a period of undersupply, like we had maybe 2 years ago, cattle going on Auctions Plus for like $13 or $14, which was crazy and way over what supply chains were paying. But equally, in a period of oversupply, the market reflects probably a lower point than what the supply chains are paying to their good customers. So, you know, things are probably never as good or bad as you actually think.
In terms of the explosion we've seen in the breed, particularly in, you know, the north, what's driving that?
A couple of things. Obviously, farmers like a buck, and when you see prices of, you know, in 2016 there was $6 when an Angus feeder might have been $3.50 or $4, or, you know, in the last big boom in 21 there was prices north of $10 when an Angus feeder might have been $6, for example. So economically you just need grass and a cattle, and people were going to do that. But equally, nothing fixes high prices like high prices. So if you have a massive influx of supply, things turn around. There's also an element where the Wagyu animal is a very hardy animal, and is very suited to the northern herds. Some people use Wagyu just over, you know, large-scale Brahman herds just to help with fertility, and because if you can slightly increase your fertility and slightly increase your calving percentage, then that has a real role to play there.
If we look at some of the demand factors, obviously there's a cost of living crunch rattling some of those international markets like China and Korea.
Yeah.
How concerning is that?
Tony talked about cautious optimism. I think that's the way in which you need to continue to operate. The other thing is that it's such a long supply chain. It might be 1,000 days. So 1,000 days ago, everyone was rolling in money. But then by the time these cattle are killed, you know, Korea has an oversupply of cattle. China's economy is at the sort of point of recession, and America's in a bit of trouble. But there's nothing necessarily to assume that in 1,000 days things won't look better. So the show's got to keep going along, and that ultimately just means you've got to have confidence in your program and your supply chain partners and keep on going.
How do you navigate that? 1,000 days out, it's a hard...
Oh, well, fortunately, I don't have to navigate that, but that's why, you know, we like to align ourselves with, you know, highly sophisticated supply chains that try and manage that. And it is quite challenging for them. I was talking to someone yesterday and he was like, I would love to buy cattle with absolutely no impact on the broader market, but just knowing our cost of production through to what our sales would look like. And that's where, back to my original point, a lot of cattle aren't sold on the spot market or through those, you know, more generic sales. It's through supply chain partnerships.
Where's the sweet spot for premiums?
I think that depends. Like, obviously, full-blood and purebreds command a higher price premium, but then, you know, an F1 from King Island at Tony's farm is different to like an F1 Brahman. Like, the quality of that product and the cost of production will be quite different. I think for it to be sustainable, there will need to be a premium over an Angus feeder, because there's a discounted in growth rate. But what that looks like, the market will say.
Hey, if we turn to a more personal note, you moved home 8 years ago after working in management consulting in Sydney. How have you found the transition?
Oh, it's the best job in the world. At least once a week, I will be heading out to the paddock doing something and just think, I'm so lucky to be able to do this. So
what skills did you think you were able to take from that job into this one?
Well, I guess I spent a lot of time in like financial strategy development, management, and things like that. So I somehow managed to convince the bank to give us more money so we can grow. But equally, because I was spending time with a spreadsheet and talking to clients, my mechanical skills might be the worst in Australia. So there's swings and roundabouts. Fortunately, I can hire people who are better than me at that.
Thank you so much, Charlie Perry, for your time. Well, we're off to a break. Stay with us, more on the other side.